Hi, I'm Kelly at Book and Paper Arts, and today I have a video showing how to make a handmade blank book. It is super simple. You only need 3 pieces of paper. There's no sewing, no stitching, no gluing. It's called a slit book, and that is because you have your sheets of paper and then you just make 2 cuts and a fold. And hey presto, you have a book. You can use any kind of paper, so it is easy, it's free or almost free, and who doesn't like that? And it's resourceful. The first part of the video, I'm going to just jump right in and show you how to make the book. Then I am going to show how I made this version of the book, with just brown wrapping paper. And it's a proper art journal, and I showed how I made these 2 layouts. So please stick with me if you'd like to learn how to make your own handmade book. Let's go. Here's how you make the basic book. There are lots of varieties on this that we'll talk about in a few minutes, but this is the basic template that you need to know for any of those. And the first step is you need 3 sheets of paper. This can be nearly any size or any weight. It kind of depends on what you want to use it for and what you have. This is one that I made as a mock-up to see how it worked, and this is just copier paper from my printer recycling box, and it's just fine. You could use blank paper, but and you could use it for writing and gluing and collage, and maybe even a little bit of wet work if you're not too gloopy. This is one that I did as a test, just using text from a cheap textbook from the 70s. It's a little bit thin, but I'm going to play around with it and see what I can do. This, you can use, most of mine are with rectangular shape paper, but you can use square. These are some echo prints that I've made with onion skins. And it's in a square format. I like this a lot. I love that palm size. And again, I've got a different mix of paperweights here. But if you have it, I really like working with a paper that's a little heavier. Now, this is a watercolor paper. It's not heavy. I made one here with some 300 GSM, and it's really more like a card. And while it's going to stand up to a lot of work, it's not very forgiving. And that's okay too. It's just cosmetic and it's a start. Maybe next time I could measure a little better. That's probably not going to happen. This is lighter. It's between a paper and a card. So look around, see what you've got, and what you need for what weight you need for the kind of work you do. Just get started. So I've got 2 pages here, and I've folded them a nice crease there. And so I'm going to keep those 2 together, and then this 3rd sheet over here. Now I folded it in the middle, and here we go. I'm going to go up here, fold it in half in the other direction, and I'm not creasing it. This time I'm just going to give it a nice little pinch right there to hold it. And cut along that middle fold. To about halfway, maybe even just a smidgen over. Okay, so there's your slit. You've got the hole there. Now take your two pieces. Now again, we're going to carefully fold in half long ways. Now this time when you cut, you're not going to cut on the fold. You're going to turn over to the open end here. Make sure those line up. And I'm going to cut along the fold line about halfway. Now, on one side, roll these papers up as if it's a tube, kind of a handle. Take your first sheet and gently feed the tube into that slit that you've cut there. Now kind of shake them out a little bit. Mess them around. And hey presto. You now have a little art journal. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layouts, 12 sides. You can, if you're using a lighter paper, you can use 4 pages. I did that with some success, but if you're using a heavier paper, I found it worked better if you stick to 3. Now I have this exposed piece here on the end. I think that's fine. It's just a look, but if you're not happy with it, you can always cover it up with some other piece of paper or some washi tape. And I'm going to show you how that works in just a mo. As I said, the exposed spine is just fine. But let's say you want to gussy it up a little. Maybe you want to give it as a present. I don't know. You could take some washi tape and let's see. I'm just going to put that here. And then carefully pull it to the other side. And now it's starting to look more like a traditional book. And you could decorate your cover. And here, I've got the one that I've made out of old text. And I'm going to play around with this. I tore some text from some old encyclopedia paper. And I just rough tore it to the eye. And I like it because it's contrasting that text and font size with this text and font size. So I'm going to add some acrylic gel medium, and you can use whatever glue that you have. Craft glue or Mod Podge. And then I'm going to pull that all the way across this piece here. Line it up. Just flatten it out as I feed it. And pull it over. And I like the way that's looking, just the way it is. But I'm sort of text happy. So, but I'm also going to try this one by combining those techniques. I'm going to add this washi tape. to my contrasting text. And now this little book is starting to look really fun. So look in your scrap boxes, see what's around, and decorate if you want, or leave it plain. You say. For the rest of the video, I want to make an art journal and fill up the pages. And for this art journal, I am using brown wrapping paper because I do love me some fancy artisan-made paper. But what I love even more are free art supplies. So I'm like some old-timey housewife. I save bits of brown paper, tie it up with string. You know what? We really don't have paper shopping bags here in the UK. It's very rare. So if I am given a paper shopping bag, I'm not recycling it. Are you crazy? I'm saving it. Free art supplies. This is actually a packing paper that I got in the stationery store for wrapping some boxes, wrapping around boxes, and it actually came with these pre-perforated edges. So I tore on those. But if you have any brown paper or any paper that you like at all, just figure out what size you like, and then you can tear it or cut it. But I'm going to go with this. And I think it's 8 by 8. I mean 16 by 8, so that's going to give me pages that are 8 by 8. Kind of square. So I'm going to take my 2 pieces here, fold them together neatly. Neatly-ish. And you can even see that this has got wrinkles from where it's been banging around in the studio, from bag to bag, box to box. I don't care. To me, that's just going to add to the texture of the page when I start making stuff. Now I'm going to open this up. So the 2 pages. I'm going to go against the original fold. Give it a pinch here in the middle. Then cut it about halfway, maybe a millimeter more. Then take the single sheet, open it up, and then fold down to corner to corner. Corner to corner. This time, cut on the outside edge, not the fold. Going to make a tube. Feed that in. Jingle it a little bit. And now I have my new art journal ready for work. There is no reason whatsoever why you can't just start working in your book the way it is now, using a pencil and or a pen. You could start writing, you could start drawing, use it as a sketchbook or an illustrated journal, or what you will. I'm going to turn this into a messy art journal. And to do that, I am going to be cycling through a boatload of mixed media techniques, which means I am going to be using different supplies. If I use something that you don't have, substitute, improvise, Be resourceful. Start where you are now, use what you have now, and just make pretty fun pages. I'm going to start by putting down a layer of gesso. Okay. Now, if you don't have gesso, you could also use acrylic paint or some other kind of paint. Use what you got. I'm putting this on with a card. I want this to be smudgy and splotchy and imperfect. I have a okay. I already love it. Now I'm going to add another layer with some ink. Now this is some ink made from avocado pits that I made. I have a course, an online course on how to make botanical inks from avocado pits, from tea, from walnuts, and onion skins. So if you're interested in making your own botanical ink, I've got a link to that below. But you don't have to use ink. You could use watered down watercolors or even acrylics. Just play around with different things. Now, I've just put some dots there, some spots, and now I'm going to take some water in a mister and activate these a little bit. I do love drizzles so much. And now I'm going to work these into the wet gesso. And let them go where they will. I'm going to let that dry. I'm not going to fastidiously compose this page the way I do some layouts because I just want to show you how you can use different elements to build up your pages and then get you up and making, and you're going to do the composing. I did start by adding this rough torn border of some text. Just put that down across both pages. Remember the free art supplies? I think this was from, we got a microwave or something, and I was breaking down the box, and I just saw this gorgeous, messy cardboard inside. And love the texture, the messy, distressy bits. I have a piece of a paper napkin. I'm going to put down here to anchor the page. And I did try to choose elements that did two things. Picked up the colors that are in this ink, but that were also powerful enough to pop against all this mess. So pick something super simple and bold. Let's go. Now I'm going to add some mark making. I've got some bubble wrap here and some ink and water that I have put into a spritzer. I'm just going to add this ink here, move it around a little, and then add it to my page, like that. And now I have a little Japanese teacup, and I'm going to dip it in some of the avocado ink and make some coffee rings like that. Just ink it up. And then do another one here. And you can use anything to make these faux coffee rings. You can use jars from makeup lids. Look really good. Or other containers. Finally, I added a little bit more embellishment for my last layer. I went around every focal point, big thing in this piece with a charcoal pencil, like this. And then smudge that, and it really, really makes things pop. Finally, I'm going to add more color. And for this, I'm going to be using a soft chalk pastel. You need something, as before, that's going to stand up to all this mess. And believe it or not, the humble soft chalk pastel does that. Look, does it like crazy. So I'm going to give this butterfly some kind of outrageous feelers here. And then to pick up that purple, I'm just going to, I don't know, draw a line through here. Just because I love a diagonal line. But anyway, it's adding some marks and color, and it's messy, and I like it. This next layout is going to start with a background of mixed text and handwritten pieces. If you go through my feed a couple of videos back, I did a video just on making an abstract patchwork collage from scraps. Okay, this is the cousin to that video with bigger pieces. If you don't have handwritten, that is not a problem. You can always just use different pages of text from different books, and you're going to get different fonts and font sizes for contrast. And then you can add to that some sheet music or maybe an old map from an atlas. So just use what you got. Or you can go to my website for a free printable version of this page, the whole thing, or go to Etsy, where I have a ton of printable French ephemera. I'm going to glue this down. For my next layer, I'm going to add some focal points. I've got this flower that I have rough torn. I chose purple because it's going to pick up the purple in the previous layout, but it's also going to hold up to this messy background. And then over here, I'm going to add this crypt. And this page is from my latest printable lot on Etsy, which is all ruins and old abbeys and churches and crypts and whatnot. There's a boatload of them in there. So go check that out. You know what? I changed my mind. I was going through the box of black and white figures and looking for one that was the right size and the right feel to go to a crypt. And I don't think I'm going to use the flower. I think I'm going to use this lady here. from the girl's own paper. And partly because of the caption, it says, "We are strangers here," Cicely answered. And ain't that the truth? So I'm going to cut this rather mad-looking woman out and see how she goes with the crypt. I switched them to either side of the page. I felt that while she was over here, it looked as though this was supplication and she was somehow giving in with the crypt behind her. But now with her facing it, I feel like there's more of a ferocious whatness about it that I really like. So now that I've got this small piece in place, I'm going to take my charcoal pencil again and start picking up these arches that are inside and pull them out into what you might call the negative space. And just extend this in a sort of a ghostly way into the page. I added a little bit of contrast. I went in with this terracotta pencil. It's actually a water-soluble pencil, but I'm not going to activate it. I just liked the color, so I added it to some of the arches here that I pulled out. And it doesn't exactly add color so much as it picks up on some of the parchmenty contrast with some of the parchment tones here. And to finish it off, I'm going to use one of my go-to techniques. I've gone around this side of this lady with a water-soluble graphite pencil. This one's by Caran d'Ache, but a lot of people make them. And now I'm going to take some gesso and carefully go round and pick that up. And pull it back into the page, making a sort of a gray halo thing. And it adds to the mystery and the feel that, I think that the crypt itself has of the old stone. I'm not going to finish the rest of the pages in this art journal today on camera because it's already pretty long and I'd like to get you up and running and up and making. Instead, I'm going to gussy up the cover so you can see some ideas for that. I am going to be using some gauze, tea-dyed gauze, or we call this scrim here in the UK. And I'm going to put that on and then anchor it with this piece. This is from an onion skin echo print, and it's kind of from the scrap box. And I'm just going to put it here and anchor that all into place and let this kind of float freely. So I'm going to start by adding the glue. This is my adhesive gel, acrylic gel medium. And I don't have to put the whole thing down because when I glue the echo print down, it's going to anchor it. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue to kind of tack it on there. And now I'm going to put glue all over the inside of this piece and fold it over the book. To wrap up, I am going to show some of the ways that I am using my own little mini books. Since I found out how to do this, I have made a lot of them. Let's see, this is the one on the medium weight watercolor paper, and now I have plenty of pages to draw, paint, paint, paint. And the same here. This would actually make a very good illustrated journal, a visual diary, if you've been thinking about starting one, but maybe you were overawed by a 60-page sketchbook. This is a good challenge. It's got 5 layouts. So the cover, that makes 6. You could challenge yourself to do 1 a day, and in 1 week, you would have a little tiny self-contained illustrated journal. And if you like it, then you could move on to the 60-page, whatever. I did the same thing. I made a little sketchbook here out of the book with just this cheap paper from an old textbook. And to give it a little oomph, I coated the pages with gesso. And some of the pages with acrylic ink, acrylic paint. And that gives them a little more slip, a little more heft to make the paper a little more heavy, but also it gives it plenty of slip so that if I'm working with water solubles, they're going to have a lot more room to play. This is an art journal that I've made with mixed papers. These are echo printed with onion skins. And these were some I had left over from another project. I actually have an online class that teaches how to make these papers. So if you want to check that out, you know where the link is. And the book is the same. It's got the little fold there. And you just have different weights of paper in one book. There's this little one that I made on just some mixed media paper. It's not that heavy. And I have painted every page with acrylic paint. Again, that's going to give your paper some more heft. This is not the good stuff. This is just from the kids section. This acrylic paint is from the kids section, but it's super effective. And I'm going to go through and paint these big, bold flowers in this little baby book. It's going to look really cool. And then finally, the wild, messy art journal made from brown paper. And I'm going to be working in this during the week. If you like book and journal arts, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and be sure and turn on the notifications. If you have any feedback or any questions, just let me know in the comments below. I love to compare notes. If you check the text under this video, you're going to see some information about what's happening here at Book and Paper Arts, including links to my online classes and printable vintage paper ephemera, including the ones that are for sale and the ones that are free on my website. So, now get up and go make something.